environment. My name is Jürgen Zolz. I'm working together with Tushik and other colleagues at the MSE to enable the market to go into T+3 environment. So I'll try to keep it relatively short but precise to the point. And first thing is basically to clarify what is settlement risk. And settlement risk is, if you ever traded on the internet, you know what settlement risk probably means. You buy something on the internet, you pay for it, and you get delivered something else. Which is not the best thing which should happen in life. So, what we basically have is a situation that on settlement day, we want to get what we paid for or what we are delivering in exchange for what we agreed upon. In the case of securities, it's an exchange of securities and cash. The current structure, which is a pre-funding structure, some people also call it T+0, I call it still pre-funding. You're all familiar with, because I think most of you will have traded in securities, and so there are a number of issues and impediments for foreign investors here, which the government expressed a lot of interest to attract foreign investment into the market. One particular point I want to highlight, which is not changing, also in the new environment, there's no short selling allowed in the market. We basically have different risks in that market, that the money may be used by somebody for different purposes other than buying securities. Again, the foreign investor is disadvantaged because when you think about Europe or the US, there's a big time zone difference and it's difficult to basically trade and settle the same day. Cash is an issue to withdraw in the market here at the moment. So we have all sorts of difficulties to basically attract foreign investment and to make the domestic market also more secure. What's the new structure? The new structure is following as much as we can the international standard. We've learned the hard way over the last few months that in some respects Mongolian law is not supportive of international standards, so we are in intense discussions with the FRC. But the basic things which need to happen is that we have different days, we have different days in between trading and settlement. We've got trading on Monday, settlement on Thursday. There's no pre-funding required. Of course, a broker can arrange whatever they want with their client. It's up to them. There's no law, there's no regulation on that. We are aiming for a clear segregation of client assets. That only the client and the clearing bank has access to those funds. Know your customer is something which is more and more a subject which is implemented since years now in all of the countries I'm familiar with around the world, which is that you do some validation on your customer before you accept the customer to open an account or to go into a trading relationship with him. Because of the 3 days come to the market, which are clearing banks, those clearing banks take care about the cash settlement of a securities transaction. They will work very interactively with the broker on the one side and the depository on the other side. We are looking for those clearing banks, that they are strong banks, very well capitalized, because if one of these banks goes into default, it would represent a market risk. You will also get, and everybody knows about it, a new electronic trading system and depository system, which is called MIT. It's not new in that respect. It's new for the Mongolian market, but it's implemented in many countries around the world. And what we are also aiming at together with the segregation of the client assets is an irrevocable transfer of assets. That means as soon as we exchange securities against cash, it cannot be unbound anymore. It's done. The deal is finished. So that is, in short, the structure. There are many more other things, but that gives a good idea about what the structure looks like. How does a typical T+3 environment look? And then we're coming to the risks. On trade day, trading takes place, as the name says, and the shares which are being sold are blocked. They cannot be sold again. Turnaround trades are possible, which is basically that somebody buys shares, those shares will go into a pending purchase account, and they can be on but sold again, within cycles. But it can only be the shares, the original shares, can only be sold once. On phone is a little bit strange. On T+1, the depository will have received from T to T+1 all the information required from the exchange, and they will produce the net settlement reports, which will then be available for the clearing banks, for the brokers to perform their respective activity. On T+2, on a normal day, nothing. On a normal settlement cycle, nothing still will happen. Of course, when you get custodians one fine day into the market, there will be a lot happening, because those custodians will be funding, and they will be funding relative according to their time zone on T+1, T+2, and sometimes maybe even early on T+3. And on settlement date, the net cash settlement between the clearing banks and the brokers will take place, also in between the clearing banks. The client cash will be debited and credited to the accounts of the clearing banks, and as soon as the depositor receives the information that all of these cash transfers have been completed, they will irrevocably transfer the securities in between the client accounts. So when we talk about settlement risk in that particular scenario, we talk about different relationships. And the relationships you can read here yourself, which are pretty obvious. And we talk about each of them in a little bit more detail. The client and the broker or participant, they have a risk with each other. The broker, that the client doesn't pay the money, and the client, that he has picked and chosen the right broker and he's doing the right things for him. So basically the broker should perform a KYC on every client, on every new account, every new client which is being opened. KYC, know your customer. So that is also in line, I think, with money laundering, terrorist money and those type of things we want to basically get away from. The broker, the participant also, which I mean, they should have the right to sell the security of the buying party if the buying party is paying for those securities. That should cover also any additional costs or expenses which occur because of that exercise. The broker can of course provide credit to the client. He doesn't need to do that, but he should be enabled to do that. And as I said earlier, any contract conditions between the broker and the client, between those two, there's not any other party involved. That was too fast. Then the next relationship on the ladder is the participant and the clearing bank. The clearing bank, of course, will also perform a KYC on the broker, because they want to know whether is a broker capitalized, a well-established broker, and so on and so forth, before they basically take some form of risk on the broker. And keep in mind, banks are being paid to take risks. That's how they earn their money. The requirement will be that each broker has to have a clearing account with one of the clearing banks. Again, the contract in between the clearing bank and the broker is a bilateral contract. That means they agree the conditions, they agree potential credit facilities, they agree potential collateral requirements from the bank. It's not up to the MSE or somebody else to basically clarify those situations. We are aiming that the clearing bank, the same as a broker with a client, has the right to sell the security of the broker. The broker doesn't fund the account. So it's basically in sequence. Then we have clients. We strongly advise and tell it everywhere that clients should have bank accounts, because it's much more secure than running around with cash in the pocket. And those cash accounts should be opened with the clearing banks ideally, or at least to have a capability with a house bank to transfer the money to the clearing bank and into the account of the broker, latest on settlement date, but that depends on the agreement between the broker and the client. But that ensures segregation of money, which is one of the really important things. The client money is segregated. Again, the contract in between the client and the bank will be individual, bilateral. They can agree whatever they want. And I think I mentioned it already, the bank will perform also KYC on the client. Then we have the relationship between the broker, the participant, and the depository. We have established new rules which we are discussing at length, which we hopefully come to conclusion during the course of next week, or the next few days, which regulate, in conjunction with the laws and the FRC requirements, any default of a participant. What we are looking for is to have each participant has a trading limit. Such a trading limit needs to be collateralized with 30% cash collateral. That again is another risk mitigation. All of these things you read here are risk mitigating factors. If there should be a large trade coming in, and I'll make one up, $10 million equivalent to group, the broker will be required to lodge 30% of such trade in